What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. I've been cooking up some Lego Sci Fi Armies this summer, and the pot's about full, but before we can dine on the delicious stew of mech and human warfare, I've got some more ingredients to add. 2 new infantry classes, a top secret drone, and the main thing, what the people have been clamoring for, more aircraft. I've got an attack helicopter in the works, as well as an advanced gunship sporting some brand new bladeless propulsion and hovering technology. So if you're ready to take to the Lego skies, don't forget to open fire on that like button, and let's get building. To begin, we're going to take a look at the HADF side of things. As an appetizer, before I get into the bigger vehicles, I've got a couple more classes of trooper to add to my HADF infantry. As of right now, I have a regular grunt, a medic, and heavy trooper. A good start, but I'm still missing 2 key classes, a squad leader and special ops. The squad leader will have the same basic uniform as the rest of the soldiers. These dual molded legs are great for military uniforms, but I feel like I'm trying to buy black market contraband when looking for them on Bricklink because of how expensive and rare they are. The only difference between the squad leader and the regular soldier is on the body armor. I left the gold printed super secret police logo on the front to designate their rank. For the commandos, I'm using some new legs to try and cut down on costs. Once again, the same basic uniform is being used, but it's being covered up with this sweet custom poncho from Clone Army Customs. This will give the commando a more enigmatic dark vibe and provide extra cover for various missions. I wanted a futuristic looking head and found this awesome mask that'll give my commandos all kinds of cool upgrades, and to complete the mysterious look, I'm going to add a hood. This is going to be a sniper unit, and this gun is one of the oldest built things in my collection. I made it all the way back in 2009 or 10 with a large scope on the front, and I've kept it built ever since. I have one more unit to add, although it's not part of the general infantry yet. A couple weeks ago, I teased a robot unit created by the HADF, and today the curtain is being pulled back to reveal what it is. This is going to look really similar to the Cerberus drones I built in the last video that protect the Kraken mech. Both of the builds are heavily inspired by the work of David Seven, who built this awesome assassin robot and where I learned some cool new robot building techniques and based mine off of. I wanted my 2 drones to look similar because the company that developed the Cerberus drones sent over the original version at the beginning of the project at the request of the HADF. That way the military could further develop it in-house and work in some of their own secret tech. The biggest difference will be in the head. This model has a slightly bigger one with an internal telescoping lens, not quite as small and advanced as the Cerberus, but still very effective and doesn't have the same colorblind restrictions. The battery pack which powers the suit attaches to the back, and once the head is on, the RCS-3 is ready to strike. These 2 new classes added to the HADF will really diversify its capabilities. The squad leader will provide more order and discipline to the ranks, allowing individual squads to operate alone or as part of a greater battle group. The sniper/commando units will be vital in gathering intel on Protectorate forces, as well as carrying out covert strikes on important targets. Able to get in and out of places unseen, coupled with the highly classified tech in their helmets and extensive training, makes them a virtual one-man strike team if need be. Right now, I only have the sniper, but other variants will be coming. Not much is known about the RCS-3 since the military kept their development top secret. As such, mass production of these units hasn't begun, only a small number is being deployed to Moenia Prime as a test. There were concerns from lower level generals that whatever caused the mechs and robots of Moenia Prime to go rogue could override the RCS-3 units as well. But those close to the project have expressed their confidence that these systems are unhackable, but refuse to elaborate any further. I realized in the HADF Army Builder Challenge I can't use the Humvee as a vehicle in my world since it already exists in the real world with its own history, so I'm once again in need of a solid military truck/jeep. I found this design on Rebrickable by Guy Smiley, and since I had no idea where to start, I decided to build his model and learn more about vehicle building. It's an incredible mock with a very detailed interior and lots of doors, but it's more reminiscent of a SWAT van or Brinks armored truck. Not really what I'm looking for. Then I stumbled across this Jeep inspired by the Warthog from Halo and realized that is exactly what I want. Some kind of lightly armored off-road capable military Jeep. It's built by MCG Works on Rebrickable, who was kind enough to put the instructions out for free, so if you want to build one, I'll link them in the comments. I obviously want to design my own truck as much as possible though, so using that as inspiration, I got to work. I like the look of the front and kept mine similar, but added some other slopes and brick-built mudguards to the side to give the truck a beefier look. When it comes to windshields, I'm very particular to using the 1x2 raised bar piece for whatever reason. It just looks very militaristic to me, and I like the angle they create, which happened to line up very well with 1x2 slopes. The back of the truck is going to have a deep bed for sheltering troops or hauling cargo, with lots of plate underneath to raise the body high up off the ground. I added a couple more brick-built mudguards and using dark bluish gray ingots tiled off the area where the truck bed will be. I really like the pattern these make when lined up together, and they provide more texture than your average slope piece, making the back look more detailed. I then added the side walls and tailgate to finish things up. Now I can add the front and back to the body. This build is very similar to how I built my custom Humvee, so even though I wasn't able to use that particular vehicle, I was able to reuse most of the parts, which was nice, saving me a little money. Call me Mr. Krabs, the way I like pinching my pennies. I designed these wheels years ago, but they still work great, and one thing I really wanted to incorporate into this build is working suspension. After much thought and a little tinkering, I discovered this Technic piece is perfect for an easy suspension system. Simply run the axle of your wheels through it and then attach it to some kind of plate connector, and just like that you have an adjustable axle. I connected my axle to the front bumper and used some jumper plates to connect all that to the front of the truck. Then copy and pasted that design for the back wheels. Now I have fully functional suspension that can have this bad boy crawling over rocks or whatever else is in its path. My leg! I built this roof piece with a light rack on the front and small doors on the sides to better protect the driver. It connects to the back of the cab and rests on top of the windshield, providing a stable roof to cover the entire cab. And now all that's left is to add the armament and fill up the tank. Light, fast, and very mobile, the Armadillo is the workhorse of the HADF. From scouting missions to military patrols or supply runs, this simple yet tough vehicle has seen little variation during its tenure due to the ingenious nature of its design. Somewhere between a Jeep and an armored car, it cut down on the need for numerous types of trucks, which made repairs and replacements easier to source. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, however. The Armadillo can withstand small arms fire, and a lifted, reinforced undercarriage protects against most mines, but it's vulnerable to anything bigger than a heavy machine gun or pulse rifle, and the only weapon is whatever's mounted on the back, which has to be physically operated, putting the gunner at risk. So it'll be interesting to see how these fare against the towering Protectorate mechs. And I want to give a huge shout out to MCG Works and his incredible combat truck build, because this would not exist without it. Alright, it's time for the main course of the video, the aircraft. I need an HADF helicopter to rule the skies and rain down fire on the Protectorate forces. I started both armies by designing ground units because that's my favorite type of vehicle to work with, and those will make up the majority of the armies. But I knew at some point, gunships and transports would need to be introduced to the battlefield. Because the humans aren't as advanced as the mechs, the vehicles are more reminiscent of what we have in this day and age: helicopters, jets, and tanks. But I still wanted to add some kind of sci-fi elements, so I once again looked into the fiction world for inspiration. There were a couple models in particular that caught my eye: the Samson gunship from Avatar and the Falcon from Halo. What intrigued me about both was the twin propeller designs and large opening in the middle for holding troops. So with that in mind, I started building. I had no idea where to start with this, so I just decided to sort through my collection of windshield pieces until I found one that I liked and start building a cockpit around that. Once that was done, I built a pretty generic looking helicopter body similar to the Samson gunship and the famous Bell Huey helicopter made by the US. I tried to use as many slopes and round pieces as I could to give this a sleek aerodynamic looking frame, and so far so good, even though it is kind of basic looking. I wanted to add extra spice to the tail, so I added some fins for mobility and a couple of small propellers for extra lift. Now comes the most important piece. This is actually from the official Lego Samson gunship, which came out in one of the Avatar sets. It's a blade guard for the propellers, and I used a similar method to Lego to connect the ring to the helicopter. However, I'm using the 3-bladed propellers instead of the double blades from the set, which, once connected to a stud at the center of the ring, position the blades just high enough above the guard that they can spin around without hitting anything. Once completed, each propeller clips into place on either side of the body and can be adjusted up or down. This hunting machine is almost done, but it still needs its teeth. I'm building a couple missile tubes since that seems to be the most common type of weapon for a heli, but I would like to deck this aircraft out even more, so if you have any other good weapon suggestions, drop them down below in the comments. Those will sit on either side of the cockpit, and of course I can't forget the trusty nose-mounted machine gun, the anti-infantry special. Humanity claimed the skies almost 100 years ago, and nothing has been able to challenge their seat amongst the clouds since. Air superiority has been the HADF's biggest advantage in past wars. However, the traditional bomber and jets aren't used much these days, being mostly sidelined by smaller, more mobile aircraft like the G-23 Wyron. These gunships can zip around the battlefield with ease, providing air support or laying down some suppressive fire to clear a landing zone while dropping off troops. And speaking of futuristic flying ships, it's finally time to take a look at the Protectorate side of things. I had a much stronger vision of what I wanted this army to look like from the beginning, so it's much more complete and easier to design. It was mostly going to be a peacekeeping police force used for megacities, so a large air force wasn't planned, but a couple of aircraft were developed. First is the Beetle drone, which you guys already saw come together in the first mech video. This is meant for transporting goods and parts around factories or to use on the front lines and has no weapons. A small support craft was also designed using experimental bladeless propulsion technology. One of the key features of the Protectorate builds is the reuse of the same design but with different modifications depending on the function required. With that in mind, I took the head of the Beetle drone and modified it into the base of a new ship. Its bladeless propulsion is still very experimental and can only support a pretty small body, and the HADF still isn't sure where exactly the designers got it from, and it almost feels otherworldly in nature. Because of the strange way it seems to glide through the air, it was designated the SC4 Manta because of how reminiscent it was to the way those underwater creatures seem to effortlessly glide around. The Manta is lightly armed but still has enough punch to provide suppressive fire while dropping off troops using its front-mounted twin-barreled cannons and wing-mounted missiles, leaving the more serious fire support to the medium-class mechs like the Reaper and Fire Wasp. But future updates in propulsion could see a heavier, better-armed Manta gunship entering the fray. Gliding in almost silently, the SC4 Manta is an experimental hovercraft class of ship. Able to bypass traffic-clogged roads or quickly reach the top floor of any skyscraper, this was supposed to be the next generation of law enforcement transportation to go alongside the new peacekeeping Sentinel robots. The Manta can maneuver and fly like a helicopter without the massive amounts of air displacement caused by blades, making it easier to land or take off in heavily inhabited areas. So this ship in particular has caught the eye of the HADF, who would love to get their hands on a mostly complete one to uncover its secrets. Feels like the more vehicles I build, the more I realize I still need. But after this latest challenge, I'm satisfied with the Protectorate forces and can now say that army is fully ready for combat. Although, as new threats arrive, new types of mechs will be created to combat them. As for the HADF, it's nearly complete, but it's still missing probably the most crucial and iconic vehicle, the tank. I've been working diligently behind the scenes, cooking up some massive sci-fi-esque battle tanks that will hopefully be ready for deployment before the end of the month. But I think I've teased and prepared for my next project long enough. Next week will be episode 1 of my newest build series where I begin the massive futuristic city of Moenia Prime. That's a wrap for this video. Don't forget to let me know which of these vehicles is your favorite in the comments, and until next time, happy building.